begin today, and what I hope will be a positive and encouraging conversation with you regarding pain, identity, disappointment, and creating a compelling now. Before we go anywhere, you are not your pain. On one hand, it's not easy for me to say that because I have struggled with over 50 years of dealing with pain since a football injury and now 7 surgeries on my left knee. Pain of any kind, whether it's excessive stress or physical pain, such as I experience every day, or grieving, has a powerful and even destructive way of affecting our sense of self. Whenever we go through a major life challenge, there can be the initial pain. I've seen people in pain over a job loss. Senior executives that I know with some of the top companies in the country, financial services, consumer goods, and so forth, when they've gone through a change, they've lost their job and transition, a wave of layoffs, all of a sudden their sense of self is terribly shaken to the point where they can't even pick up the phone. I've had some say, I don't know who I am anymore, and I'm just stuck in this. It's overwhelming. So there can be a source of pain, such as everything that comes along with the job loss. And then there's that sense of self that gets shaken. The same is true with grieving. The same is true with physical pain. And if you're experiencing physical pain, it's all of the above. It's stress, it's grieving, it's disappointment, a wide array of mental stressors, emotional stressors, social stressors. But what we're going to focus on today is that statement: you are not your pain. Hi, I'm Rick Cram. I'm writing a book called Plan to Be Your Best as You Navigate Pain. It's a resilience program that I created over 10 years ago. Actually, a corporate client asked me to create this for their annual leadership conference to help their managers find new ways of leading themselves and their teams through change. After surgery number 7 on my left knee in 2019, which left my knee in a state of trauma, I experienced random blasts of pain, over 20 different pain sensations over time, but sometimes dozens of times a day. When it gets really bad, it can be a dozen or more an hour. And I'm here to, though, have a conversation and an experience that focuses on your resilience in mind. In fact, I'm here quite energized because as I went through Christmas Day yesterday, here we are at the end of 2025, I spent the day going through my one of my journals, and I found something. I came across something, and I wonder if you've ever done this. Have you journaled something, written something down casually, or maybe as part of a formal journal, and you go back and take a look, and you read something that you haven't read that you wrote some time ago, and it strikes you in a new way. Perhaps you look at what you've written and you say, I forget that I even thought that. Or I'm not sure if I would agree with that anymore. That was the kind of experience that I had yesterday. And I came across one particular journal entry when I was reflecting on having gone through the 7th surgery in 2019. And sometime later, it was quite clear that the tough stuff was back. While I had initially thought that the major sources of pain was the partial knee replacement that I had, partial revision of the knee replacement that I had, solved some problems. And I thought it was taking care of all of the issues that I was having, all the different kinds of pain. What they needed to do was replace that hard plastic polyethylene plate between the two titanium implants and do some other work. Apparently, fragments of it had, for the past almost year, been breaking up and causing excruciating pain. And so it was clear that they needed to replace that, as well as they remove the lining of the joint, as synovial fluid that replaces itself, and do some other cleanup work, scar tissue and so forth. But here I am some months later, and I'm journaling because I'm overwhelmed by the extraordinary new array of pain sensations I was having. And I wrote down a number of thoughts, including How I can't believe this. Gone through, I wrote down something to the effect of there's a price to pay for trying to gain pain relief. And I've found that in so many different parts of my journey of pain, my journey of resilience, there are prices to pay for so many different aspects of the journey: the mental journey, the physical journey, the social journey, spiritual journey. And as you may have heard me say, and I'll say it time and time again because I think it's so important, I've become a lion of intentionality. The greater the level of pain must be matched by a greater level of intentionality. And I found that that applies to virtually every aspect of my life and how I'm navigating this. So I was reflecting on it in my journal notes from now almost 6 years ago, 5 years ago, the price that's paid for trying to gain pain relief, the price that's paid for finding new ways to be resilient, to survive and thrive daily blasts of agony. And then I came across this, that I am discouraged. I went ahead and looked at that. And then I looked at the next line that I wrote. And I remember doing this when I had initially written that journal entry. I had written down, looking at that journal entry, I had written down, I am discouraged. And immediately, as if it was not even a breath later, I made a journal entry regarding, I am feeling discouraged. What I had done in that moment years ago was immediately identified something, and this is one of the ways in which I've become so intentional. I caught myself saying an I am statement. And since looking at that yesterday and then preparing for our time together today, I found this wonderful sense of energy preparing for what I'm going to share with you now. The ways to look at those I am statements, ways to look at that experience that we have when we are overwhelmed with the pain. In my case, it's physical pain with my knee, but there's also the mental pain, there's the emotional pain. And indeed, to look at the way we use our words, those I am statements, the way that sometimes we can get trapped in that sense of overwhelmed, that I don't know who I am anymore, or I'm thinking I am the pain. I remember going through surgeries 4, 5, and 6, and my pain management counselor once pointed out in a conversation, Rick, have you ever noticed that you refer to the knee as opposed to my knee? And that started an ongoing conversation for some months regarding the sensitivity and the value and looking at, all right, in what ways what meaning am I giving to some of what I'm experiencing? So let me ask you in this moment, as we're live here now, and if you're watching the recording, um, also, I'm here to answer your questions. I'm here to respond to your thoughts, your concerns, how you're navigating whatever is painful. What I'm going to do is just make sure that I can see, as we're live here, any particular comments that you might have. And we're live on YouTube, and I welcome your comments both now as we're live as well as down the road. I'll be checking back at the recording. One of the things I'm so excited about is that what I've prepared for us today is basically going to be a coaching session, a resilience coaching session that's going to give you so many ways to take a look at that sense of self. Have you ever thought to yourself, and as I've heard people say, when they're experiencing major life changes or excessive pain in any form, I don't know who I am anymore, and I don't know what to do about it. What I've prepared for us today is a way to take a look at 3 questions and apply them to each of the 8 different dimensions of life, and how we can take a look at those 3 questions, apply them to each of the 8 dimensions of life, and identify ways to re-anchor in who you are, regain that sense of self, regain your value. I was giving a talk to a group, sharing with them the plan to be your best. And we were walking through the first of the 8 paths of intentionality. There are two key parts of Plan to Be Your Best as you navigate pain. There are the 3 steps of resilience and the 8 paths of intentionality. The first one is prepare. This is where we pause at the very beginning and think about, what are my values and who am I? If we're going to go through a process of and down a path of regaining our sense of self and working on our resilience, looking for new ways to undo what pain does, such as hijack our focus, sap our energy, and frustrate our hope, even to the point of despair. Let's start with what it looks like to be prepared, what it looks like to say, all right, this is who I am, and get anchored in that. It's almost as if, how can we go through any walk, any journey, if we don't first know who we are? So what we're going to experience today, and I think what you'll find, is that as we go through each of the 8 dimensions of life, asking 3 specific questions, that you'll find wonderful ways to understand the goodness in you, what's true about you, and what's unchangeable about you. And in the process of doing that, create what's called a compelling now, a now that is so profound, a now that is so important, a now, a moment that is so true that it gives you the kind of energy to persevere today, persevere in this moment, to be resilient, win back that focus, spark new positive energy to be able to move forward. You know, a lot of leaders, as I often have been saying, because I've recently added this to the methodology, the approach with Plan to Be Your Best, the framework, this idea of a compelling now. And it's what the 3 steps of resilience do so well. So many leaders like Tony Robbins, who I admire greatly, and others will talk about how important it is to have a compelling future, something to look forward to, something to work towards, and that so much energy can come from that, that can actually help with getting unstuck and being resilient. But when pain is overwhelming and emotions like discouragement can be overwhelming, it's important to have not a compelling future, but a compelling now. There are times when I will literally be stopped in my tracks, doubling over in pain, and I need to catch my breath and use the 3 steps of resilience in such a way to win back that focus that pain takes away, spark some new energy to not fight the pain, but to go with flow and move forward. So let's get underway with taking a look at how you are not your pain and winning back your sense of self. This is something that you'll be able to come back to. Each one of these, what I'll include are timestamps below, so that if you're watching the recording, you can look for the dimension of life that you want to focus in on and entertain these 3 questions. And I'll go through these notes. There's enough so that I've prepared them here. And what I'll do is also create a worksheet that you can download, a free PDF, and be able to write out either in handwriting, which I always recommend, because writing out with your hand is there something more profound about it. There's something more memorable and potent about it versus typing it on your computer. Although with the PDF that you'll be able to download, you'll be able to use it on any one of your devices. It's a writable PDF. Let me share with you. Consider these the identity anchors for every dimension of your life. And there are 3 questions that we'll ask as we go through each one of these. What is true about you? The second is, what is good about you? And what is unchangeable about you? If you'd like, write your answers in the comments below, and I'll reply with as I can here live or after this is a recording, and share some words of encouragement and some reflections that hopefully will be helpful. Or even go through this process, especially with the recording. Sit down with someone that's really close to you and do it together. I've found, especially in the workshops, when 2 people pair up and go through a conversation to have these, that there's this wonderful sense of encouragement, compassion, empathy that gets played out, and becomes a time of vitality. partner up with someone and do this together. It's one of the things that we do in our group, Plan to Be Your Best groups, or one-on-one coaching sessions. So let's take a look at the first of the 8 dimensions of life. It's the intellectual, the mental experience that you have and I have as we go through anything challenging. It's where, and for me in particular, it's so much of this pain journey, this resilience journey is a mental exercise. It is a very heady experience. And what I'll do is I raise up each one of those 3 questions for this mental, intellectual dimension. I'll offer a set of possible answers that you might entertain. And yet, it's going to be your answer that means the most. It's going to be your answers to these questions that are going to be the most true and the most meaningful for you. And those are the ones to focus on. These that I'll share with you are suggestions. So what is true about you when it comes to the intellectual dimension of your life? You are still capable of learning, even if pain interrupts your focus. There's that example of how pain will not only interrupt your focus, it hijacks it. All of a sudden, the pain is overwhelming. The pain is all that you have in focus. It demands that attention. And yet, we have these wonderful minds of ours. You've got an extraordinary mind and the ability to make choices. You'll never stop having that strength. And that's part of your own unique resilience. Another one is you have ideas that matter and questions worth asking. Especially when I think about that, asking questions is so key. When someone comes to me, the first thing they're always doing is asking questions, such as, how do I get through this? How do I take my mind off the pain? How do I do this when I'm experiencing something I've never experienced before? I'm so overwhelmed and I don't know if I can do this. How do I take the urgency, the pining out of this? And in the same way, just as I was journaling that idea of I am discouraged and trading it for I'm feeling discouraged is a way to take a step back and become more objective. And in effect, these questions are inviting you and me to apply that objectivity. Because when we can step back and take a look at it, then we're actually starting to win back that focus of ours. Another possible answer is to what is true about you. You think more deeply than the world often realizes. Don't we all? As I just shared with you, the idea of how this is very much a heady experience for me. The idea of all the thoughts that I have, thoughts that I've found, and this is perhaps one of the most important lessons I've ever taken away from 50 years of pain and the daily pain since surgery number 7, that's on a level I've never known before, is that those thoughts need to be expressed in some form or another. When we think them, then we might write them down, we might say them, we might even act on them. But the more we express and release those thoughts, the healthier it is for us to navigate them, to process them, care for them, and sometimes, often, find ways of looking at those thoughts that don't serve us well and replacing them, trading them for something that's positive, getting into the habit of and creating a new pattern of thought. So, what are your answers? What is true about you when it comes to your intellectual journey, your mental journey, this dimension of your life? The next question, what is good about you? And here are a few options you might consider, but again, it's your own personal answers to this question that matters most. You are curious, even when exhausted. That curiosity is so important. It is our first and most foundational emotion as a child. Look at the way a child, even a toddler, behaves. They are curious. It's something that we start life with, and it never goes away. It never ends, and it's probably one of the most significant emotions and choices that we make to be curious, to be able to strengthen our own unique resilience. Your resilience is unique. And so your curiosity is also going to be unique. What will also be quite different is what you find with your curiosity and what you do with it. You have insights that can help others feel seen. This is a key part of the plan to be your best as you navigate pain approach, is that when it comes to being your best, you're able to take what you've experienced and help others. You become and you're becoming with your pain journey, your resilience journey, uniquely qualified to see others and let them know that, to connect with them, to give them exactly what they need, that connection and a sense of understanding that others who haven't gone through the kind of journey you have gone through or are going through. It's rare, it's unique, it's powerful, and being uniquely qualified gives you two gifts. One, something that you can share with others. Let others know that you see them, you understand, the compassion you have for them. But the other gift is what that does for you when you share that compassion, share that encouragement that creates connection. That'll flow right back to you and lift you up. The next option is this. You notice what others miss, including emotional truth. There are things that only you and I will know in our own journeys with pain and resilience, emotions that are uniquely yours, uniquely mine. Others don't see that. But because you are aware of your emotions, what you're feeling, that can also factor into that sense of understanding and compassion and empathy that you can share with others. You can share with others what you feel, what your thoughts are. And in that sharing, when you might say, I'm so overwhelmed, I don't know who I am, I'm so overwhelmed that I sometimes the thought just there gave me pause, obviously. It makes me think about my own journey and the words that stand out when, what is it that you feel? What do I feel? The thought that I had just then is how for the past several years, one feeling that I've had is of desperation. I might say I am desperate, but no, I feel desperation. There's a significant difference right there in what this exercise is all about. In fact, lately I caught myself saying to someone, I've even told my number of my doctors, I'm desperate. But more true and more healthy is that I am feeling desperate. And there's a difference. There's that objectivity and there's that realization that it is an emotion. And by virtue of identifying that, looking at it that way, I'm able to say, all right, it's an emotion. If I use the 3 steps of resilience where I tune in, identify that, plan, what emotion might I choose now? Because that emotion of feeling desperate has a weight all of its own. There are no words for it. But I've got words for my resilience. I can plan, I'm going to choose gratitude. And then I'm going to be my best, step 3. I'm going to dwell on that. I've chosen gratitude. I'm going to focus on those things that I am grateful for. Sometimes I'll even say I'm grateful for the scars, because without them, I wouldn't know the man that I am, the way that I'm uniquely qualified to try to encourage you and lift you up as you're navigating pain and seeking to identify and strengthen your own unique resilience and thrive in your own way through whatever it is that you're experiencing. I am not desperate. At times I feel desperate. And that's huge. What are the things that you're saying are part of your I am statements. What is that blank you fill when you say I am blank? What if you trade that for I feel that? I will say there are some words that I will use I am statements for. I am resilient. Have you ever said that to yourself? I am resilient. What if you actually elevated that just a little bit and say, I am resilience? It's truly not only who you are, but what you possess. To recognize that it's more than just an identity statement, it is a core belief of something that you have, a truth that you have. Try saying that. I am resilience. Let's continue. The next question, what is unchangeable about you? When there can be so much that is changing, it helps greatly to identify those things. And again, we're talking about the intellectual dimension of life. What will never change about you? What will transcend these challenges that you're experiencing? What will transcend time to help take the urgency out of this painful experience that you have now? Change the perspective to long-term perspective and focus on something that will never change. There is energy that comes from that. There is so much goodness that comes from that. Here are a few options, and I'll share with you mine. Your mind is still yours, not your pains. Your mind is yours. Nothing can take that away from you, not even pain, certainly no one else. Your ability to imagine something better survives every setback. I was reading yesterday again about more of what I had journaled when I realized that the 7th surgery has left this knee in a state of trauma, and coming to terms with that. And I will tell you that perhaps for the first 3 or so years, I really struggled with acceptance. In some ways, I can still feel as though and have thoughts such as a kind of disbelief. I remember journaling, it's not supposed to be this way. And especially some journal entries from back when I was 18, after the knee injury and after the first surgery, and the knee went south again after the second surgery. It didn't solve the problems. And then there was this third surgery that was extraordinary. And it did give me relief, for a considerable amount of relief, not pain-free, but it gave me the relief that I needed. And I remember thinking back then, it's not supposed to be this way. And so I worked through that, and I journaled about it, cared for it. It really was a statement about, in this mental, intellectual dimension, we have expectations. At the root of all frustrations are unmet expectations. So when there is a setback, when there is a new challenge, some loss of comfort, loss of ability, loss of a loved one, I found it healthy and helpful to step back, look at the feelings that I have regarding my frustrations, what am I frustrated about, and compare them with the expectations, and sort through, eventually getting to the point of accepting that those expectations were fair, were good, were nothing wrong with them at all. But that objectivity helps when the processing and caring for all the feelings that come along with the basically what is to be grieved, cared for, grieved, processed, so that you don't become bitter and angry or hard. It doesn't harden your heart, because that will create more layers of pain. The aim, if we're to be resilient, is about moving forward, not carrying things inside that need to be let go, need to be shed, but to move forward with flow, to move forward with life. If life is all about creativity, then our resilience is about being creators of our stories, creators of our thoughts, emotions, and our actions to move forward healthy, whole, and stronger, with a stronger character. Because out of that character, there's hope. And don't we all need more hope? One more. Your capacity for wisdom cannot be removed by circumstance. Your capacity for wisdom cannot be removed by circumstance. No matter what happens, you've got the ability to be wise, no matter what happens. And it's through that wisdom that you find answers. You'll find energy and strength for moving forward. Please share with me any particular thoughts you've got. Even if you're watching the recording, I'll be looking at the chat tool. Hopefully it's working here. The idea of as we go through this, I just realized that we spent half an hour on this first dimension. And I think what we'll do is go through each dimension, and I'll do this next one more quickly to see how our timing goes. And since there are 8 dimensions, what I'll do is look to using Plan to Be Your Best Live for the next remaining set that we don't get through today. The next dimension of life is the emotional dimension. What does it look like for you to answer these questions? What is true about you? What is good about you? And what is unchangeable about you when it comes to what you're feeling, those thoughts, those emotions? What is true about you? A few possible answers include your feelings are valid, even when they're messy. They are valid, even when they're messy. Whatever you're feeling, it makes sense. Whatever you're feeling, it makes sense based on what you're experiencing. It is true. And I know it can be hard. I know about the tears. I know about the grieving. I know about the frustrations. It makes sense. Whatever you're feeling, it makes sense as part of the human experience of pain. Any emotion is possible. And we experience a wide range of them. It's been amazing, the variety of emotions that I've experienced over 50 years, and especially since the 7th surgery. You can feel multiple things at once, and that is the strength. Talk about mixed emotions. Have you ever considered whatever emotion that you're feeling, as painful as it is, as heavy as it is, there's another emotion that you can actually choose to carry and focus on at the same time, and that's joy. To a considerable extent, I don't talk about happiness. Being in pain, feeling agony dozens of times a day makes it easy to say, I'm not going to focus on happiness, but I focus on joy. I choose joy. Joy is so much more valuable. Joy is real, it's foundational, and it's one of the ways that I feel whole. Try choosing joy along with whatever emotions that you're carrying. You are allowed to have needs. Everybody's got needs. Everyone's got choices to make. Every day we make dozens, scores of conscious level choices every day. We make hundreds, if not thousands, of subconscious level choices every day. We've got needs, we've got choices. When we're experiencing pain, we have more needs. And we've got a need for making more choices, opportunities for making more choices. Acknowledge those needs, share them with others, don't hold them inside. Talk to somebody about them. Think through understanding the needs. Use the 3 steps of resilience. Tune in to each of those needs that you have and plan. What kinds of thoughts, emotions, and actions might you choose to satisfy the needs and then be your best? Take those steps, follow through with those thoughts, emotions, and actions. Taking action and being your best is what will address and in some shape or form either satisfy or resolve that need, especially if it's something that's ongoing. So those were possible answers to what is true about you when it comes to the emotional dimension in your life. The next question is, for that emotional dimension of your life, what is good about you? What is good about you? Here are a few options. You are empathetic and attuned, even to pain. You are empathetic and attuned, even to pain. Another one is you care deeply, which is part of why it hurts. It's true. We feel so much that the more we feel, sometimes it might be as if we're hurting even more. But that is a strength of yours, how much you feel and how much you express those feelings. That's actually a strength. It can be exhausting, it can be heavy, but even in that exhaustion, you still have that strength, and that strength needs energy. How can you add energy? How can you use the 3 steps of resilience to add fuel for navigating those emotions which feel so potent? You're capable of emotional honesty. That honesty is so critical. The more we keep it inside, the more it stays bottled up, the more we're actually going to feel that sense of a pressure cooker. The pressure increases and increases. It needs to be expressed. It needs to be released. Honesty. What if you increase the level of your honesty regarding your journey with your pain? What if you become more honest, especially with those who do understand, who are uniquely qualified to listen to you like no one else can, uniquely qualified to connect with you and to express compassion? That honesty is actually a key to healing. Do you ever feel as though you need to heal some measure every day? That's part of my journey. Every day I'm working on grieving. Every day I'm working on healing in real time. What would that look like for you? What is unchangeable when it comes to your emotional dimension? What is unchangeable about you? What will endure? What always has been and always will be? Your heart is a place where love remains possible. If you're to take anything away from any of my talks, anything that I write, it's this: whatever you're going through, love more. Whatever hurts and is knocking you down again and again, love more. Whatever you cry over, love more. Love must be one of the first answers to how do I be more intentional? If the level of pain needs to be matched by the level of intentionality, it begs the question, perhaps this is the first question that would follow after who am I? I need to be intentional about my identity and my values, is how can I love more? What do you need most when you're hurting? Sometimes for me, it's love. And I must admit that there's no one who can love you like yourself. There's no one who can love me like I can love me. I think that is at the heart of resilience, is love. Caring for yourself so much that you will elevate that level of intentionality, beginning with love. That also extends to loving others. I found that the more I love others, the more I love myself, the more I love others, the more I love the Lord. There is so much goodness that comes from that for my own resilience. The love that I give myself creates energy. The love I extend to others flows back to me and creates energy that I need to navigate each painful day. Whatever you're experiencing, love more. What is unchangeable about you? You are worthy of gentleness, always. Gentleness is a choice. Imagine being so overwhelmed where you're in pain and you need to win back that focus, spark some new energy, and spark some hope for moving forward. Use the 3 steps. Tune in. What do you need? Plan. Plan with gentleness. It's a way of expressing that love for yourself, that caring for yourself like only you can. And then be your best. Be gentle. Extend grace to yourself. Ever notice how sometimes you say things, think things to yourself that you'd never say to someone else? Extend more grace to yourself. Extend gentleness to your emotions, your thoughts, your soul, your spirit. Don't fight. Be gentle. Let me take a quick look to see where we're at timing-wise and to see if there are any particular comments. And the idea of what we'll do is look at one more dimension of life. It's the physical dimension. And then I'll wrap this up in another 15 minutes. But these will be the first 3 of 8 dimensions of your life and mine, that when we take a look at our identity and answer these 3 questions, what is true about you, what is good about you, and what is unchangeable about you, we find new sources of wisdom, new sources of energy and truth for our resilience. This lays the foundation for the path in front of us to find ways as we go through the 8 paths of intentionality to perpetually grow both a combination of wisdom but courage for navigating something that's profoundly difficult. This next dimension, the physical dimension, what is true about you? A few options to consider, but how you answer this question matters most. Your body is hurting, but your body is not all of you. That physical experience of pain is extraordinary, especially when it's an 8 or 9 or 10 on a pain scale. One of the things that I noticed earlier this year was that the pain in my knee, whatever the pain sensation might be, when it's happening, it feels massive. It physically feels huge. And then I look at my knee and look at how, basically compared to the pain, how small it is. That part of my body, that knee, is a small part of me. The pain may seem huge, and indeed it's overwhelming, but it's not all of me. And whatever you're experiencing, whatever pain you're going through, whatever the pain is, it's not all of you. It's something that you're experiencing. And yet, what if you embrace that idea and gain some objectivity? Write out what your thoughts are regarding your pain experience. Journal it. Have you ever journaled what your pain experience really seems like physically to you? When I get asked to be a guest on a podcast, I was asked recently on a podcast, and I didn't think it was going to happen again like it did a few times before. I'm asked about my story, the knee injury, the last game of my football career, senior year, 2 minutes to go in the game, and took this knee injury that led to 3 surgeries within the first couple of years, another 3 surgeries later on in my late 30s, and then surgery 7 in 2019. I start to have a traumatic reaction. And talking about the story, talking about the pain can be overwhelming. I found that it's important if we're going to talk about it, and I believe it's so worthwhile to talk about our stories and reflect on them, tell them and work on healing through them and replacing the emotions that come along with the trauma. The trauma might not ever go away, but what we can create is a new pattern of thoughts of responding to the traumatic reactions. The idea of practicing that is part of being resilient. So thinking about writing out what is your pain experience, looking at it, naming it, not bad or not anything that implies judgment, but describing it in a way so that you're processing it. That objectivity is important as part of being resilient. Another one, pain interrupts plans, but it does not erase purpose. Pain interrupts plans, but it does not erase purpose. We talked earlier about expectations, and I had certain expectations. I'm about to graduate from high school, go off and play, hopefully, tennis at the college level. And those plans got interrupted. I didn't think I would lose my own natural knee at the age of 40. I wanted to still play tennis and get back into inline skating. That was one of my greatest hopes and expectations as I was going through surgeries 4, 5, and 6, but those plans got interrupted. And I was hoping to get back to being 80, 85, maybe even 90% pain-free going into surgery number 7. And that plan got interrupted. The pain experience, what I've experienced, has interrupted a lot of plans. This changed the course of my life many times over, actually. But one thing has remained. With every new season of this, there's something that is strengthened in me. And it's this innate sense of purpose, this innate motivation to encourage you and to encourage others who are living with and working through pain such as you've never known before, and to equip you to plan to be your best as you navigate that pain. I found that when I see others discover how their own unique resilience can be strengthened and get to the point where they say, your best is greater than the pain, and my best is greater than the pain, the ability to then say, my best days are ahead of me, even with the pain. The pain is an experience. It does interrupt plans, but not only does it not interrupt purpose, it can actually give you a sense of purpose you've never known before, a sense of purpose and such a compelling, both now and a compelling future, that is part of your story, that makes it part of the amazing life journey that you're on. It's all in the mix, but that sense of purpose, how powerful that is. I hope you will come to realize how significant that is, how that's where transformation takes place. Pain interrupts plans, but it does not erase purpose. In fact, it can give you a new purpose such as you've never known before. You are still here. Everything that you've gone through, when it comes to what is true about you, this is a truth. Regarding your physical journey, the physical dimension of life, you've gotten to this point. You may have gone through what you might describe as hell. Sometimes I describe what I have been going through for, especially since the 7th surgery, as hell, but I quickly dropped that word. I've thought it, but it's probably the first time I've actually said it in years. It's not hell, because God is in the mix. But you've gotten to this point, as hard as it's been. You've made it. You're here. You're here mentally. You're here emotionally. You're here spiritually. You can keep going, and I'm here to help you, encourage you. Find as many people as you can to encourage you and to walk with you. You're not alone, and don't go through this alone. You've made it this far. You'll keep going. Let me just check this comment. So that's so let's go ahead and do that. This question about this physical dimension of your life. The next one is, what is good about you? And the first option is, again, your answers are the most important ones, but you might consider this. What is good about you? You honor your limits. That is wisdom, not weakness. What is good about you? Let me bring into the equation here the question about boundaries. Are there boundaries that you need to set that you've had on your mind? When you honor your limits, for example, with me, I talk about my bandwidth. My bandwidth is challenged every day. I'm constantly working on both honoring it. Sometimes I push it and pay the price for that. But when you honor your limits, that is something that's good about you. And the more we think about our boundaries, it's about being realistic. It's about energy as well. How do you create, preserve, and spend energy within your limits? Honor your energy, honor your limits. You keep searching for ways to care for yourself. Never stop looking for ways to care for yourself. Just like we were talking a little while ago about if the level of pain needs to be matched by the level of intentionality, and how being intentional with love is essential. Raise your level of love for yourself and for others. Never stop searching for ways to care for yourself is a form of loving yourself, caring yourself, giving grace to yourself. Never stop. It is that search, again, curiosity, that has its rewards. You'll find the more you search, the more you'll find. After 50 years of pain and 7 surgeries, I keep searching and I keep finding. Listen to your body with compassion, caring for your body. How might you elevate that compassion for the way you're caring for yourself? I'm constantly asking myself that. But that is something that's good about you. What's good about you in your physical dimension of life is that you're caring for yourself, you're treating yourself well, you're honoring your limits, and you're being compassionate. More grace. Last question for this part. What is unchangeable about you when it comes to your physical dimension of life? Your worth is not dependent on your physical condition. You ever feel as though, based on what you're experiencing, that your sense of value, your sense of worth has diminished? Quite the contrary, my friend. It's increasing and will continue to increase. And it'll increase especially in leaps and bounds when I find and start to live out that sense of purpose, kind of purpose that the intentionality of being resilient and navigating the pain, even with the pain, gets you to a point when you realize there is more value to you. Your worth is more than ever. Your ability to encourage and understand and connect with others who are suffering has never been greater. And that's something to be grateful for. That, if you ever put on an attitude of gratitude, choose that, being grateful. Choose an attitude of gratitude towards what you've gained. Your worth is greater than ever in ways that we need more of. More compassion, more human connection, more understanding. Another thing that is unchangeable about you. You remain more than your diagnosis, limitation, or history. I remember when there have been a number of diagnoses that I've had since the 7th surgery, how I was floored beyond words when my orthopedic surgeon said, "I'm sorry, there's nothing I can do." That's That's a hard thing to hear. But what I ended up doing in response to that, I came back and opened up a document and I started thinking about all right, if this is so out of control, I made a list of those things that are within my control. And the more I started writing and thinking about things that I can do, the more I actually felt this physical, where I hold a lot of tension in my throat, in my shoulders, my neck. Felt my shoulders relax, my back relax, my throat eased up. I was being resilient and I exercised using plan to be your best. I tuned in, planned, and be my best. Those 3 steps of resilience, and ended up coming back, bouncing back from such, for me, what was a profoundly upsetting diagnosis all my life. Each next step, the next answer, the answer always was another surgery. And here now getting that diagnosis, it was tough. But I was more than that, and you're more than that. I had the ability to basically apply everything that we've been talking about so far. It became more intentional, and I followed through on it. And I ended up updating my plan for how I'm going to advance, move forward, not focus on the diagnosis. Without a doubt, I needed to heal from everything that I experienced from that particular visit with the doctor. But I was more than that diagnosis. You're more than that diagnosis that you have. If you ever need a chance to talk to somebody, I'm here for you. I'm a holder of hope for you. And I'll remind you every step of the way that you are more. And you've got strengths, no matter how exhausted you feel. And you've got a resilience in you that is uniquely yours. And it can grow stronger. Finding ways to do that is something that I can help you with. Even if it's just to talk about a few ideas, I'm here for you. Feel free to give me, send me an email or contact me through rickcram.com and let's talk. Nothing but care and connection. I'm here for you. One last point. What is unchangeable about you? Your body can hurt and you can still matter. I think perhaps the theme about all of this is that you matter more, and acknowledging that, your ability to extend grace to yourself, your ability to choose resilience, to recognize it in you, you are more than whatever you're going through. Keep remembering that you are more than what you're going through. Pardon the clock. That's a 1955 Seth Thomas, an old family clock that is actually chiming the wrong number of chimes for the hour. But I'll call this, here we've gotten through 3 of the 8 dimensions of life and entertained these 3 questions. What is true about you? What is good about you? And what is unchangeable about you? So we'll continue next Friday. I believe that is Friday, the 2nd of January. And we'll get through the others. In the meantime, I hope you realize that as you take a look at and entertain your own answers to these questions, you find not only your identity that you can anchor in them again, but your identity is worth so much, more than you'll ever know. Your best is greater than the pain. Thank you, and I'll look forward to seeing you again.